Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of my favourite people and some of the most remarkable people too. We've got a man for you today who's been around, well, forever, entertaining the nation with his books, and he's got a brand new CD out, which is glorious. Fallen Soldier is the CD, starring Melissa, and Frederick Forsyth joins me on the phone now from his home. How are you doing, Frederick?
I'm doing well, Alex. Thank you.
It must be terrific to be you, to be credible and relevant and still at it and have had the career you have is truly extraordinary.
Well, that's very kind of you to say so. I'm blushing. You can't see it, of course, because we're on radio. I'm blushing at the compliments. No, yes. As to this latest project, it is odd, slightly intimidating, because I've never written a record before. I mean, I've never written a song before. I've never written a poem before. And yet, amazingly, Fallen Soldier seems to be going all over the place. So, I'm very pleased, and as I say, I'm pretty bewildered.
It's touching and relevant. I think that's the point, that every day we switch on the news, we can feel there's probably another war brewing. We see the impact of war every day through Facebook and social media for younger people. And, of course, for people of your generation, you've lived through terrible atrocities, and you've sort of put that into the heart of this CD, haven't you? It's very meaningful.
Well, I just thought, some time back, we don't seem to have, any sung tribute to all the soldiers who died, fighting, wearing our uniform, and fighting for us, or indeed liberating Europe from Nazism. I mean, there were hundreds of thousands of young men. They got all their lives ahead of them, and they never came back, leaving a pool of personal grief, mum, dad, wife, children, grandparents, uncles, aunts, brothers, sisters, all grieving for them. And I thought, well, I wonder if I could do that. Well, I could just write a poem, in a sense, to say, well done, lads, and thank you. So that's what Fallen Soldier does.
I listened to this CD the other day, and I sat at my desk, and I got halfway through it, and I just thought, what is the point? Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we self-destruct and allow this to happen? I mean, it is a bit silly when you stand back, isn't it? The stuff we get into and the tragedy that it causes.
Well, yes, it looks like it, but then sometimes we're given very little opportunity not to. I mean, I'm thinking mainly Second World War. I'm no student of the First World War, and there are many who say it should never have broken out, and that slaughter in the trenches was just blithering incompetence by the generals. That may be true. Yes, I think, was it wise? Probably not, to invade Iraq and lose 179 young men. But then other things you think, well, the Second World War, did we have a choice? Could we have just said yes to Adolf Hitler? You take over the whole of Europe until you're ready to swat us and then invade and conquer us and occupy us. Or do we fight? Yeah. And we chose to fight. And it cost a lot. Yeah. But we did actually not only save ourselves, we also liberated the whole of the European continent, with the Americans and the Canadians fighting beside us, from one of the most evil creeds the world's ever seen. Yeah. So I think that tragedy, that sacrifice, was worth it. But still, to the boys who went out the beaches of Normandy, a big thank you.
The Fallen Soldier lament is so gorgeous, and of course the lyrics aren't everything. You've got to have a wonderful singer, and you've found one in Melissa. An extraordinary story of sort of alchemy, how that came together. It
was complete serendipity. I had spent some time, having written the poem, looking for the right piece of music. I tried the classical world, couldn't find the right piece. I tried the modern composers, couldn't find the right piece. And then, coincidentally, I was in the village church, and I heard this extraordinary voice, absolutely pure soprano. Couldn't see who was singing because she was in the choir. Yeah. So later I got an introduction, and it was Melissa, who perchance lives in the same village as I do. But I didn't know that at the time. And I said, that's the voice. And that's the voice I want to sing this. I gave it to her, and she sort of read it and said, wow, I'd really like to sing that. What's the tune? I said, I don't know. I don't have a tune. So, she said, oh, Lord, a poem without a tune, and a singer without a melody. So then she said, I know a man, and introduced me to Gareth Williams, a British composer, and he read the lines and said, wow, I think I could. And about a month later, he came back with this extraordinarily moving sad but plaintive, a very touching piece of music. So now we had the three we needed. The only thing left was to record it, so we did.
And of course you got it absolutely right. Tone is so important with this stuff. And you've sort of nailed it. Congratulations on that, because if you'd have got any element of that wrong, the singing, the tune, the tone, the speed, it would have just been a car crash.
Well, yes, it seems to have worked. And again, the fourth person involved is another very talented young man called Don Best. And he made the video that goes with the melody, so you can have both or one. I mean, the whole package can be purchased, or you can just download from iTunes the music and have that alone. But yes, I'm slightly bewildered by the success, because it was only launched last Monday, I think, and it became top of iTunes, and then it's now raging across Australia and New Zealand. Because obviously New Zealanders fought with us, and the Australians fought with us, and so did the Canadians and the Americans, so hopefully they'll take it up as well. I
think it will be something that will be part of your legacy. I think it will grow and grow and get bigger and bigger, because it will only become more relevant as time goes on.
I hope so. I mean, we look as if we are still now a couple of years into a whole long period of commemorations. There's a big one coming up July 1, which is the first day of the Battle of the Somme. The bloodiest battle we ever fought, with 20,000 dead by mid-morning. And then there are other ceremonies like Armistice Day and so on. So it would be appropriate to all these ceremonies.
Congratulations! It really is so lovely. It's called "Fallen Soldier" by Frederick Forsyth, sung by the wonderful Melissa. I want to talk to you about your life and career, because it is incredible. Of course, this is very natural to you, because at heart, more than a writer of books, you're a journalist, aren't you? And that feeds how you create these novels.
I still regard myself, yes, basically as a journalist. I was an investigative journalist for years, and then turned to novel writing. Again, another of the great coincidences that changed my life, like just that, hearing that voice in the church. One of these strange coincidences. I don't know why it happened to me. It did, and I turned my life around. But prior to then, and indeed since then, I still think of myself as a journalist.
Are they any good anymore? It seems to me journalism has sort of lost its balls since hacking. I mean, you were really at the halcyon days of getting to the bottom of stories, researching them, and really bringing people down who were up to shenanigans. It was an extraordinary time to be part of that world.
Well, it still goes on, you know, and to be fair to the modern journalists, yes, there was the hacking scandal, but then parliamentarians had the expenses scandal, and now we see the police under fire for the way they behaved over these elderly gentlemen who apparently didn't do anything wrong, but you know, they've had their lives turned upside down. So it does seem that every now and again a certain profession is taken to task, and possibly quite rightly, because you know, with too much power, as the man said, all power tends to corrupt. And power tends to corrupt, he said, Lord Acton, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So yes, the press have power, politicians have power, police have power. Sometimes it gets abused. But on the other hand, there are things going wrong which the press still do unveil, and it is the job of the press, obviously, to hold power to account. At the moment, we have a government in power, obviously, which has virtually got no opposition. So even more, I think the media have to just check and see what's going wrong, why it's going wrong, and who's telling us lies. A lot of that about. So I would say we're still doing our job.
Do you ever lose it? I mean, are you constantly intrigued by what's going on? Will you ever lose that instinct to doubt and question?
Probably not. No. When I was a kid, what really set me off, if you like, on this rather strange life that I've had, which I put into a memoir the other day called, I think it's called The Outsider. Basically, it's a bump of curiosity. You know, if I had spent a life writing out insurance policies in an office, then I probably wouldn't have seen much, been many places and so on. But I had this curiosity. I've got to see what's over the brow of the next hill. I've got to see what's around the corner. I've got to see what's on the other side of the river. It's got me into some scrapes, and fortunately I've always managed to get out, pretty much unscarred. But if you have this curiosity, journalism is probably the profession for you.
And I think some of your stories, having read parts of your autobiography, I mean, they were life-threatening. You were in danger, weren't you, literally?
Well, yes, but up to a point, I suppose, if one goes into a war situation, yes, there's a chance. But then nothing weird. I mean, look at the numbers of journalists now covering wars all over Afghanistan, Iraq, various dangerous places. No one ever pays tribute to them. It's part of the job. If you're a war correspondent, you go up the sharp end, and you have to, or you can't just sit at divisional HQ and pretend you're a war correspondent. You might as well sit in the club in the West End of London.
Yes.
So yeah, you do these things, but it's and occasionally there are casualties. There are journalists who are quite simply lost in combat situations.
Is there a specific story that you're most proud of, and a story you covered that you will take with you and think, I'm so proud that I uncovered that or covered it?
I can't think. No, I can't really think of one offhand. I think the most moving story I ever covered undoubtedly was watching the children of Biafra die. Now, many of your listeners won't recall Biafra because it was the Nigerian civil war between 67 and 70. And I was in the heart of it, right in the midst of the rainforest. And probably the most tear-jerking or heart-rending spectacle is to see children dying of starvation, and to be helpless, to be able to do absolutely nothing about it. So one couldn't just do anything. One just watched these horrible scenes of not just a few, but I mean entire fields, football-sized fields of dying children, and that marked me. Yes, I'll never forget that.
In 2000, I did a radio show in Nairobi, and it still is totally unfathomable to me that there are 2 million people who are technically homeless living in slums in Kenya. It is remarkable that in 2016 this is still going on and nobody's managed to find a solution.
Nobody has, and indeed the poverty and the destitution and the terror and the violence out in the world beyond our European shores, is not diminishing. It seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. Mind you, I have to say that our forefathers never saw it.
Right.
So they sat at home, and possibly a story came in, possibly weeks later, of something terrible happening in Southern Africa or Far East Asia. Today, thanks to modern technology, it's instant. I mean, it's within seconds. It's on someone's smartphone, and it's gone wide, it's gone viral. And we're sitting in our comfortable sitting rooms, looking at this horror, and saying, what can we do? And sometimes we can, but very often I'm afraid we can't. And that's very hard to hoist aboard. We cannot stop this happening. They're doing it to each other. Why? Yeah. But it doesn't make sense, but they are. And we pour aid in, and we do pour aid in. And an awful lot of sort of aid workers go out from this country. Whenever there's a crisis or a tragedy like in a third world country, we're always the first in, deepest pockets, biggest contribution. We are a very generous people. I like that about the Brits.
Yeah, indeed. We always jump to people's aid.
They don't even buy their round.
No.
We do. Every time somebody seems to be getting hurt, we see it on television, and we send contributions, and hopefully something is done. But all of it, no. What's going on in Syria, we know it's utter horror. But the Russia in there and all the other there.
It's almost too big to comprehend, isn't it, at this stage?
It's very hard to comprehend.
Yeah. And just very finally on journalism, I mean, you mentioned how it's moved on and that with Twitter within seconds will bring the news to people. It is destroying newspapers. The Independent ceases next month. They're finished. Will there always be a place for newspapers, or do you feel that it's a sort of redundant way of receiving news because it's a day late?
Well, as you know, one of the major the Independents is now going online only.
Yeah.
And the Huffington Post is an online-only paper which has a huge readership. It's American, but it may be that the form will change, that it won't be bits of cellulose between your fingertips on each morning when you pick up your paper or it's delivered. That may change, but news and I think the human being's appetite for news, that won't. It'll just change format.
And then we look at you talking of paper and writing books, and this is the thing that will define you, I think, your entire life, and your legacy will be that people will continue to read Frederick Forsyth forever. That must be marvellous when you walk into W.H. Smith's and see rows and rows of you. That's extraordinary.
Well, it's very, yes, it is extraordinary. the online book has been tried, but frankly, it hasn't really dented the old traditional book market. People still like to feel a book, turn the pages, flick back, and have another look. And I don't know why it is, but anyway, they've tried to introduce the tablet book, and it works up to a point. And yes, you can have 200 books on one little tablet in your hand, and yet, book sales just go on up, which is pretty weird. It'll probably end one day. Hopefully, I shall be there.
Was that a natural process for you to go from being a journalist to being an author? Because it seems to me there's never been a time that you've failed at it. I mean, right from the beginning, people caught on to what you were trying to do.
Well, it was a fluke, frankly. I came back from that war that I've mentioned. I was skint. I was absolutely stony broke, and I hadn't got a flat, and I was sleeping on someone's sofa, and I hadn't got a job or prospect of a job. And I just thought, I had an idea 7 years ago when I was a Reuters reporter in Paris. Why didn't the OAS succeed in killing Charles de Gaulle? If it didn't left to me, thought I'd have done it this way. So I sat down and wrote it. And I called it The Day of the Jackal. But it was a fluke. I mean, everybody, even the publishers, thought they were taking a bit of a flyer here. This is a risk. Nobody's ever heard of this guy. It's a weird story because de Gaulle was still alive when it was published. So, they thought, well, we'll take a flyer anyway. And that flyer, I think, the last I heard, was between 10 and 11 million sold. And 43 years on, it's still there, which does indeed absolutely astound me.
And the grand total is over 70 million books sold now. Again, that's impossible to comprehend. But, I mean, you've touched so many people's lives around the world. How do you view yourself at this point? I mean, you've made it, haven't you? I know I heard an interview with you the other day and you were talking about retirement and that's it, you're done. And this was a project that sort of woke you up and inspired you to be creative again, the Fallen Soldier CD. Will you write another book?
I don't know. I don't think so. I've said quite clearly that the Outsider is my swan song. It's getting the whole world that I used to write about, I mean, mercenaries and assassins and spies and all that world is getting very, very technical.
I get that. I heard you say that the other day, but I honestly think you're wrong, Frederick. We love what you do, and there's a huge demand for it. I don't think it matters that the world's moved on because we like your world.
Well, it's very kind of you to say so, but I always try and write pretty much contemporary stuff. I mean, I don't go back into history like Wolf Hall,
Right.
So it's all the last 7 or 8 years, maybe. Occasionally, I've even written a book set 2 years ahead of publication. I mean, beyond publication.
Yes.
Sort of a bit of what's it called, crystal ball gazing.
Yeah.
Broadly speaking, got it nearly right. But I don't know. I think there's a moment when you say, "Have I got anything more that I really want to say?"
Yeah, I remember Michael Parkinson saying that.
All the subjects I've done, Islamic fundamentalist terrorism and a tanker, a vast oil tanker being hijacked, and that's happened since I did this the book, The Devil's Alternative. And I don't think there's any other subject I really want to go so deeply into. Besides which, there's a lot of brilliant young writers coming up. So I think that maybe this old codger should just do what old codgers do: play with his grandchildren, walk the dogs, and feed the cop.
Yeah, I do remember a chef telling me once, so there's a good soup in an old chicken. Just remember that. It's a good.
Yeah, there's another one about old wine and old fiddles. But,
yes, indeed. Hey, listen, it's been so lovely talking to you. Such a great honour. You are so blessed and talented. Thank you so much for your time. This new CD, Fallen Soldier, I think will live on for many, many years. Melissa did a great job and did your lyrics so proud. And please think about writing another one because we'd like it.
Okay, thank you, Alex.
Great to talk to you. Frederick Forsyth's new CD, Fallen Soldier, sung by Melissa, is available now via Amazon and in local stores. Great to talk to you.
Thanks.